Hello, Oracles. Well, today's adventure takes me to Quai Pai, heading to the peak there today. And it's been a lot of FUD that's been going on around Tesla recently. And I wanted to go over some of the FUD, but I also want to discuss all the awesome catalysts we have going on and why Tesla is moon bound regardless of all of the FUD that is out there. So we've got some amazing catalysts coming up, but as Elon had said back in the spring, expect a lot more negative news and campaigns against him. And we are seeing that definitely very much so recently. Now, arguably, as I've discussed with several of you, Elon can cause some of it himself. Maybe he likes that tension and that turmoil. You know, looking back to 2018, they had all that negative press that came out and their sales went up. So thinking about the fact that Tesla does not advertise, we go back to no press is bad press because it keeps your name in people's faces. Well, he certainly does a good job of doing that. Now, in the process, he does piss off some of his investors. Understandably so, you know, for people who are paying attention to the stock in the near term, watching the stock price movements, it's not for the faint of heart for sure. Stock price is going to be all over the place. Goes up, it goes down. Elon sells shares. Elon says something, the stock goes down. Elon that says something again, it goes back up. Can be very disheartening for many people. The way I look at it myself, and this is how I look at it from a long-term investor standpoint, is in 2030, I still feel that the stock price is going to be $11,000 pre-split. Regardless of what is going on right now when it comes to Twitter, when it comes to Dan O'Dowd and all of his videos about FSD not working when it's hitting children, I still feel it's going to hit that price. So, if I was a holder and I wasn't buying any more right now, or I was just dollar cost averaging and not even paying attention to my portfolio, but if my eyes were shut to my portfolio and I woke up in 2030 and the stock price was $11,000, I would be super happy because that is an amazing growth over the next decade. So, if I look back, I would have ignored all of this noise that is out there right now because the stock price is still going to be hitting that price. So if any of you are long-term investors and you're upset by what is transpiring right now, you know, just ask yourself that question. Do you think that the stock price is going to reach your price target by 2030, despite what is going on right now when it comes to Twitter, what Elon is doing, any other FUD that is out there? Because if it is that way, then there's really no need to be upset, because you have to remember that while Elon could have his antics and definitely gets on some people's nerves, and yes, he does bother me sometimes with some of the things he does, but you have to remember that Elon is the reason that Tesla is as successful as it is. He's got a huge team that's behind him, but it's his drive that is getting the company and his vision that is getting the company to where he wants it to be, to where it is going to go, to help us all become Teslaonaires. And yes, I will be coming out with that video very soon. And so unfortunately, when it comes to being a Tesla investor, you're also investing in Elon, and you're going to be investing in this roller coaster ride of Elon's antics and the way he is. You have to take him positive and negative. You can't cherry pick what part of Elon you want, because quite honestly, I think if Elon wasn't the way he was, they would not be as successful as they are. And again, even his antics are what is keeping Tesla in the spotlight and keeping things going when it comes to advertising and things like that, because he is always out there putting Tesla in the news in one way or another. That's just my take on it. I know I've discussed it with many of you, lots of great conversations. You know, we've all got our own feelings on it. And there's nothing wrong with having your own feelings. You guys are backing it up with support, and I love and appreciate that. So thank you for these great conversations we are having. But I just feel that in 2030, regardless of any of this, we are going to have a stock price that is at least $11,000. And so all the stuff that's happening right now is just noise. And because I am one who can purchase more shares at this time and I want to accumulate more, this is great for me personally, because the lower the price is now, the more I can accumulate. So if I can accumulate more now, that means that when we hit that stock price later, I will have even more shares at that price. So for me personally, I like this kind of stuff because it gives me a better opportunity to add more shares to my portfolio. I know some of you feel that, you know, this is us losing trust in Elon. I don't trust Elon anymore because, you know, he's boosting the stock and then selling it. I mean, basically the SEC holds him back from just telling us flat out, hey, I'm going to be selling. So he dropped a couple of hints at the shareholder meeting and said, by the way, these one-time, one-off deals are great buying opportunities. That was basically his hint saying, I got sales coming. The stock is going to dip because of that. Probably a good time to buy. That's just my take on it. I know, again, we've discussed a lot of this in the comments about, him doing these things. And when it comes down to it, Elon's going to Elon. He's going to do his thing, regardless of what any of us say. He does listen, though. If enough of us bark out there and say, hey, Elon, maybe stop some of these antics, he does listen. But I think for things like this, it's not going to change. And Elon being Elon, he is definitely going to poke and prod that hornet's nest to get some things stirring out and about. So it's just who he is. If it's not your cup of tea, maybe walk away. I don't want to tell anybody what they should or shouldn't do with their own portfolio and investments, but if it's, it's not a wild ride that is for everyone. Now, looking at his Twitter purchase alone, there have been questions that have come up about, well, since he sold these shares, is he going to have to pay taxes on these? What's going on? There's actually a very strong chance that he is selling shares now, just like he did back in the spring. And the shares that he's selling now are at an average price of $1,033. So he's actually taking a loss on these, which means that he will not have to sell any shares later in order to get the money that he needs to pay the taxes. So in case that was a concern on anyone's mind, that should not be an issue. And now Gary Black and Dan Ives were discussing over on Twitter about how most likely we are going to see Elon being forced to buy Twitter, which, Elon has now sold his shares just in case he is forced to buy it. So if this does end up transpiring, so be it. But they feel like it's going to be at a reduced price, probably around that $51 billion mark. And so as Elon had tweeted the other day, if he is not forced to buy it, he will take that money and invest it back into Tesla. So if he ends up getting it at a reduced price, that means he'll have more money than needed, most likely. So there's a chance that he could be putting that money back into Tesla if he gets this at a reduced price. And now on to some other FUD. We've got some Dan O'Dowd videos coming out about FSD hitting children. We've got a lot of people debunking this, saying FSD was not on, it was not engaged. They purposely set up cones to force it to hit a child, which is a dummy, of course, not a real child. But they basically set the entire thing up to show FSD failing. And it's just a slander campaign against Tesla and FSD. Now, if you guys do not know, Dan O'Dowd has a LiDAR system that is competing with FSD, yet he really has nothing to show for it at all. So he spends all of his time finding out ways to show that Tesla's bad versus just making himself better. Whatever. And so Holmar's catalog is going to be doing a real-life simulation of this to show that what they were doing was wrong and false, and Tesla FSD beta is safer than anything else out there, and it will stop for children and elderly and everything else. So we'll see those videos coming out hopefully this weekend once they get those tests done. But this is just more FUD and slander campaigns against Tesla. And so despite all of this FUD, Tesla was up almost 4% yesterday, down a little bit at the time of this recording, about 1/3%. But why is that? Well, the only selling pressure we had for 3 days was Elon, and that's a massive selling pressure. So now that that's gone, stock is able to run back up. We got the good CPI numbers, well, good based upon expectations, still not good, but beating expectations and trending in the right direction. And so now we can run a little bit. We'll see how it trades the rest of the week. We've got PPI numbers easing as well, so that was another good sign. And we've got jobless claims that are up, so employment is balancing, giving us a little more indication that a pause is potential, or at least a lower rate hike than expected. So we'll continue to monitor the data. That's the important stuff that we have coming in. So now we have room to run. And the catalysts that we have for Tesla are quite big. We have some significant catalysts coming up. And so the first catalyst we have is, of course, the split. We are getting on August 25th. So we'll be seeing it then, again, after hours on the 24th, shares split. And then when you open up on the 25th, you will have 3 times the shares at 1/3 the price. We also have a credit rating upgrade that is due. We don't know when. Gary Black is thinking it's going to happen in August. I personally think it's going to happen after Q3 earnings, so probably November time, just because the S&P is being stubborn. But we shall see when that comes out, because that's going to be a massive catalyst, because as of right now, Tesla is owned by 53% institutions, which is significantly lower than all of the larger blue chip stocks like Microsoft and Apple. So, because of this, when it gets flipped over, that institutional number could grow significantly, which will in turn boost the stock significantly. And then we've got the EV tax credit, which should be passing through the House and President Biden relatively soon. And looking at Troy Teslike, checking the order backlog for Tesla, we're at 504,000 vehicles in a backlog right now. It's been about the same since March. So now you ask yourself, well, if it's been the same, that means that demand has actually been going up because production has been going up. Yes, we had the downtime in Q2, and then we had the 2 weeks down in July, but the backlog is still there. Now, with that being said, I am predicting us hitting close to, if not actually hitting, 500,000 units for Q4 alone. So that would eat up that entire backlog. So I think demand is still going to go up, but don't forget, Tesla has the pricing power to be able to switch pricing down a little bit to boost up demand if need be. Now with EV tax credit, we are expecting demand to also go up. So the timing on this could be perfect, where we hit a point where Tesla's production ramps so quickly that it starts to actually catch up with demand, and we would need more demand, and Tesla has the ability and pricing power to adjust pricing as needed to boost that demand back up again. Now don't be confused. This does not mean that Tesla's demand is coming down. This just means that their production is ramping so quickly that they can keep up with the demand that is also growing exponentially. So, great signs on both ends. That just means massive sales and revenue in the future. Next massive catalyst is going to be the new factory that Tesla announces. So we've discussed it recently on here that sounds like we've got some murmurs of a Canada factory coming. We've heard Indonesia. Personally, I think the next two we get are going to be Canada and Indonesia. And we've got people thinking Japan and UK. So I definitely can see us getting probably 5 to 6 factory announcements by the end of 2023, because I think it'll run similar to Berlin and Austin, where they're going to be opening up and ramping factories simultaneously. I have a feeling the factory announcements are going to come at the same time we get Master Plan Part 3. Because Master Plan Part 3 is all about scaling to extreme size. The only way to do that is more factories. And now the scaling to extreme size isn't just EV based. It is transitioning the entire world over to a renewable, sustainable energy. And so in doing that, it's even more for Tesla on the energy side of the business. So that's just another massive catalyst for Tesla as a whole company, not just an EV automotive maker. And then on September 30th, we get AI Day 2. Lots of teasing going on when it comes to Optimus, what it's going to look like. Nobody knows. Elon said that, he thinks that they're a lot further ahead than many people think. We shall see what happens, but that's going to be another massive catalyst. Don't forget that AI Day 2 is more of a recruiting event, because in order to stay ahead of everybody else, you need to have the best talent. Tesla and SpaceX are competing numbers 1 and 2 for top talent. So this is just another way to keep them in the lead there. And then 2 days after AI Day 2, we get production and delivery numbers for Q3. Last year, they were a massive surprise. We had a huge run after that. Then we got the Hertz news, which boosted us up to all-time highs. And right after Q3 production and deliveries numbers come out, the Twitter overhang could be gone. October 17th is the date that we see in the court for Tesla to decide what is going to happen. That could be the end of the overhang for Tesla and Twitter, and that could boost the stock even more. Right around that same time, we are going to be getting Q3 earnings. I think we are going to see a massive surprise beat at Q3 earnings, which at that point I think is when I think the S&P is finally going to relinquish their stubbornness and actually increase the credit rating for Tesla to investor grade. So I'd love to get it before then. I just don't know if it's going to happen because they are being so stubborn, but that is my prediction. And of course, we've got the big one that's flying under the radar, which is the semi-truck starting shipments this year. That's going to be huge. I think a lot of people don't see it right now because of all the other noise and FUD that's going on, but that's going to be a massive one that comes in that I think is going to be a surprise boost in the stock as well. There you have it. That's the FUD and catalysts that I see right now at the moment. Let me know in the comments below what other FUD and noise you see going on out there, what other catalysts you see as well that are going to drive the stock even higher, and completely ignore all of this FUD and noise in the long term. And thank you all so much for joining me on this hike. As soon as I finish this, I reach the peak. And I want to thank you all for all of your support and feedback. If you have not subscribed, please do so down below. Sign yourself up for notifications. I am over on Twitter at OracleTim1. I share all of the latest Tesla news, pertinent stock market information, and all of my daily trades. We do have a Discord chat. That link is down in the description. And if you'd like to support the channel any further, we do have a Patreon. That link is also in the description. Thank you so much. Have a great one.